if I told you that real dialogue isn't always clean and polished? Sometimes it's messy and real and chaotic, but it's absolutely beautiful. Today we're diving into the very popular film known as Little Women with my best friend Ava, where we explore how real conversation is not always perfect conversation. However, it never fails to reveal who we truly are. Welcome back to The Dialogue Effect. I'm your host, Jackie Aguillon. Today we're going to be talking about one of the most beloved and revolutionary films of its time, specifically surrounding dialogue, and that is Greta Gerwig's Little Women. Today, I'm joined by my best friend Ava, who is a true expert of this film. Today we'll be unpacking how Greta captures this beautiful, chaotic mess of humans and human conversation, and how people talk over each other and emotions bubble up. And dialogue isn't just about being perfect, it's about being real. So, grab your coffee, settle in, and let's jump into the story about sisterhood, ambition, anger, love, and how dialogue truly shapes who we become. We were talking right before this about Greta Gerwig and how she decided to have everybody talk over each other. I saw it right away how they do that.
Yes, Greta Gerwig is so unique in that, and obviously Little Woman, it's a very old story. It's a very popular story.
I didn't know that either.
They've redone it multiple times. It's like every few decades with the it girls of that generation, the big actors and actresses like Elizabeth Taylor, Winona Ryder. Like there's all these movies with them in it. So every time one comes out, it's kind of a big deal. And this one came out in 2019, I want to say, around Christmas time. I remember.
Oh my God, you're good.
Yes, I remember. And this is Emma Watson, Florence Pugh, Saoirse Ronan, Timothée Chalamet, Meryl Streep. So some really big actors, actresses.
Incredible.
And I love Greta Gerwig. This is a story that's been told so many times, but she does it so uniquely. First, by having her characters talk over each other. It's almost like, I feel like a song and dance. It's like a rhythm they do it. And and I've watched behind the scenes. So in the first part of the movie, you see the sisters, the four sisters who this film is about, their lives. And this is during the Civil War. And they are all sitting in their living room together, getting ready for this party. And it's just chaos. And
I love it. It got me in immediately.
You feel like it reminds you of getting ready with your girlfriends, or if you have sisters. It makes me want to have sisters so
I know.
much. Yeah, I love it. And I've watched behind the scenes of this film because I love it so much. And the actors say it was a rhythm. It was like Greta Gerwig is composing the scene, because there's a mark where they all come in. Because people are coming in when they're not done saying their lines. But you can still hear them all perfectly.
Wow.
I can understand the scene perfectly. It's got these sisters getting ready. You can already get their personalities. And I think it's an excellent portrayal of how women speak to each other.
Yeah.
And how we speak to each other.
I was just going to say that. Even every single time you're over, I mean, we are always talking over each other. You're going to see it during this podcast. And it is what it is. It makes everything so lively. It's not even like we're trying, though. It just, first of all, I would have to try to not talk over you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's not a rude thing. I've been told before, I'm being rude, I'm interrupting, right? But it's like, that's not the intention.
I know.
The intention is, I'm so excited about what you're saying. I want to add something else. And it's like, you go off of that, and the sisters, like, they can't, they're sisters, they're together all the time. When they have something to say, they're going to say it.
It's so free. It's so freeing because you don't have that judgment of, it's total free dialogue, and that you're able to say anything at any time and you will be received. I mean, in one way or another, you know?
Yeah, and there's no men. Their fathers all fighting in the Civil War. So it's just women in this household. So it's really unique. And Little Women's very unique in the fact that it's all these women that are the leads. The men are side characters.
Yeah.
So we can really get to see and hear their voices in the movie. Whereas women in films about that time period, you don't get to hear their voices like that. And especially not talking over each other, like, so exuberant with joy and everything they want to say.
Especially, it's real. At this time, it was all very staged. It was all whenever there's a woman involved, it's
Yeah.
very staged and very meticulous. That's why one of the beginning scenes, Ava made me rewind it.
Yeah.
When we missed it, the editor
Mhm.
that's discussing with the protagonist,
Mhm.
Joe, why her story is like not that good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's being a critic, you know.
Yes.
But he was saying, when you bring me back a story, and if it's a woman as the main character, then she either that the story needs to end with her either being married or dead.
Yeah.
And she kind of did like a double take. She was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
You know, because again, it's always so meticulously curated when
Yes.
it involves a woman. It's always like a romance or whatever.
Yes.
And Little Women, it is very, I mean, yeah, it involves those narratives, but it's not about that.
Yeah.
It's about like the chaos and the realness of like sisters.
Yes, and I love that quick little line, that little biting social commentary that Greta kind of throws in there. Like
Yeah.
she does a double, like what? She has to be dead, but yeah, that's what sells. He's being real with her about what would sell a story back then, and honestly, what would sell a story today. People
Yeah.
want to see a woman married at the end, and if not, why is she there?
Right.
In the story. So yeah, this movie, I love it because it's about sisterhood. It's about these girls just growing up during the Civil War era, and they're struggling financially, but it's kind of about how they find joy in spite of that.
Yeah.
And it flashes forward into the present day after the Civil War when they're adults, and then it flashes back to their childhood. And it's just a simple movie. It's about a family growing up. There really is not any major dramatic, like major critical point climax. It's about their lives, and it's a very comforting movie.
And
for
I
me.
feel like I'm living life with them. Like I
Yes.
feel like I'm going along with them, and I'm experiencing like the triumphs, and
Yeah.
like I'm experiencing the loss. You know,
Yeah.
spoiler alert.
Yeah.
But like that is
but
the
things
realness.
everyone goes through, right? Everyone goes through
Yeah.
loss, so of course it's sad, but everyone can relate to that.
I love Greta Gerwig. She did such a great
She's
job with this.
fantastic.
We were talking before this. She did
Yeah.
exactly perfect with this role. She
Yes.
must have fought for it, because you can tell
Yeah.
she did such a great job. I really like the protagonist, Joe, and
Yes.
I like how they are so good. This is such a good major theme for dialogue. I think
Yes.
that when you are like a little kid, I was gonna say I really like Joe, and I like that you can see how like when she's younger, she's so expressive. You know what I mean?
You can
'Cause,
see
like,
how they grow.
when you're a kid, you know, I mean, we talk with our hands now,
Yes.
but like when you're a kid, you know, you're just like, dude, like you're like waving your hands all around, and
Yeah.
she's so expressive with not just her speech, she matches it to her body language, and it is so like silly and
Yes.
kid-like and free, and so you can literally see the change on how we change, like when we grow older, and how
Yeah.
our dialogue changes, and
Just
like
had to dial it down.
and I don't know where that comes from. I can for sure see just in the past few years, like how I dial down. I mean, especially in a professional setting.
Yeah.
And that sucks. Like as a woman, you are expected to like, or not expected. If you have like if we talk like this in an office setting, please, you know, we are not able to be ourselves, because like this excitement, this exuberation, that like, that's not professional.
Yeah, and if you remember, there's certain scenes in the movie where Joe's sisters are kind of correcting her because
Wow.
she uses these like big expressions, and she's so passionate in this film. And they're like, Joe, you can't speak like that. Don't say words like that. Like when we're going out to this party.
Wow.
So they kind of keep her in check. So I think she learns to dial it in. But yeah, it is that. It reminds you of when you're a kid, and Joe will just say like, oh, I hate that, and I love this. And she speaks so strongly. Whereas an adult, I would say, yeah, it's kind of frowned upon to have such strong opinions about something, especially in the workplace.
I have really realized that at like an excelled rate these past few years, because like
Absolutely.
I was like, you know, not sprung into adulthood, but like after the military, you know, you're taught exactly how to act in the military in terms of, you know, how to interact with people above you, how to address them, you know, and like kind of everything in between. And then now I did it backwards, right? Like I was in the professional world, and then I went into college. So I do feel like I'm kind of relearning all of this because I'm applying for jobs, and like we're talking about this. And so I took like a hiatus, like I took a break, and now I feel like I'm having to relearn all of that. And I think that I related to Joe so much because I'm in that time of my life where I'm going out like into the real world, and I do have to. This whole podcast is about dialogue, and like my whole kind of common theme the past few episodes has been how how to be a good communicator. You often adapt your speech to fit somebody else's, and that like is kind of, it feels like maybe like, oh, I'm like losing, like why do I have to adapt my personality like to somebody else's, like they totally win. And it's just not that. And as soon as you kind of like, as soon as that like clicked for me that like it's not a battle, like who am I fighting, when you are around certain people, you act that way. Like when I'm around my people, when I'm around my best friend and my husband and like my brother, like I am able to be Jackie, you know. That doesn't always need to be, I don't always need to be the extent of that when you're in certain environments, like when you're in a workplace or even when you're in a fight. Like I can't talk like this. I can't talk at this volume if I'm in the middle of an intense fight. That would exacerbate it. What's the word? Exasperate it. It would totally, bring it out of hand, and it would like amplify all these emotions. And so that's kind of what I see. I saw myself in Jo, she's growing, and you're learning that. And it's like a really hard lesson to learn because you feel like stubborn and like you feel like you're losing, but in the end it is a lesson that needs to be learned.
Yeah, and Jo still finds happiness, right? And she still does hold on. She still cares really strongly about things, but she learns how to communicate in a way where everyone can receive her message. Like if she's just speaking loudly, people might perceive her as being angry, right? And it's like not being a serious person.
Point, Ava.
Yeah, so she doesn't give up parts of herself. I think she changes how she speaks. And I think a lot of people relate to Jo. She's a really popular character.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people want to be Jo. I know I do, because Jo doesn't care what anyone thinks, right? And she learns she has to at least pretend as an adult, right? To care what people think and maybe soften her tone. But she says her opinion. She says, I don't want to get married. Like, I think that's the worst thing in the world. I just want to have my freedom. I want to write and be with my sisters all the time, which is so beautiful, but not the reality of her family's current situation. Her family, the only way for them to get out of it is for one of their sisters to marry wealthy, or they will just constantly be struggling. And you see this in the movie. The sisters, the mom, the dad, they're always working to make enough money to get by. Not that they're the poorest, but it just really shows that commentary about social class and what people have to do, what they have to give up to kind of get by. So yeah, Jo is great. I love how all the sisters have very distinct personalities.
I know.
Is very, like, she tries really hard to do that, and they all have talents. Jo's a really excellent writer. Her older sister Meg's a wonderful actress. Her middle sister Amy is a beautiful artist, and their youngest sister can play piano. And Greta Gerwig makes that like such a focal point in the movie, and that's not always a focal point in all the movies.
Right.
She focuses on the gifts these girls have, which it doesn't mean they're going to go on to be famous musicians or artists, but they're not just like blank. They have depth to them, and they have gifts, and women have ambitions, even if they do end up married with kids, which is fine. But
that is exactly what I was gonna say. This happy medium of the movie, I think, made it feel so real life.
Yeah.
Like you see these movies and it's like, oh, of course she ends up with the guy, and of course she ends up, spoiler alert, there's a major conflict in this movie where the sister, the main sister Jo kind of turns down this child,
her best friend.
Her best friend. It was a love interest, but it was her best friend at heart. It was her the male lead, Timothy Chalamet.
Yes.
And then Timothy Chalamet's character goes and asks out her younger sister, Jo's younger sister.
And it's really unorthodox.
I know, it's crazy. And like, I thought this was going to be very much like such a prim and proper film. Like when you introduced it to me.
It's a period piece.
And then I was just like on the edge of my seat, because I was like, no way is this guy going and making out with the sister now. And then they come and they're married already. They come home and they're already married. And I think that it's so, that's what made it like so realistic and like made it the cozy feeling, because like cozy isn't always like fairy tales and like happy. Coziness is like home, and coziness is like realness, And there are some conflicts and like some like crazy depths of the movie, like deaths, deaths are involved, and like weird plot twist where you're like, that's not supposed to happen. He's not supposed to end up with her.
Right.
But then he does. But just like life,
doesn't go as planned.
But it still works out.
Yeah.
Like, it may not go as planned, but it still works out. And that's what I love, is that like, you're like, that's not supposed to happen. But then in the end, it's like, she still is successful. She opens up her school, and she has this beautiful mission in life, and she finds an awesome husband that like she loves, and like, it's so cool how that happens.
Yeah, life works in funny ways. Yeah, and I love that's a very famous. It's a spoiler, but also this story's been out for hundreds of years.
I know. God, yeah. All right. Exactly. Yeah. It's your fault at that point.
But I like it because Joe and Laurie. Laurie is the boy, Timothy Chalamet. They're kind of mirror images of each other. They're both hotheads, and they both are so passionate when they speak.
Right.
And one of the reasons Joe gives, she's like, Laurie, I can't marry you because we would kill each other because of how they act, how they communicate with each other. They're both so strong and obstinate in their beliefs. And so even though Laurie is heartbroken, it ultimately is the right choice. And marrying someone's sister who you just proposed to is pretty dramatic.
Little
but
crazy.
That's how Louisa May Alcott chose to
I love
show
it.
that point that they're not good together. And then there's some great monologues in the film that Saoirse Ronan does, who plays Joe, and Florence Pugh with Amy. Greta Gerwig out of the scene, which isn't originally in the book, but Joe starts to regret that she turned down Laurie because she's feeling so lonely at home while her sisters are all busy. They have their own lives. And she talks to her mom. She's like, I think I'd say yes if he asks me again, like when he comes back and from his trip to Europe. And her mom's like, but do you love him? And she's like, I care more. I care more to be loved. I want to be loved. And then her mom's like, that's not the same as loving.
It's not the same thing.
Yeah,
that spoke to me. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Ava, like, I so want to be loved.
Yeah.
I so want to be loved. That spoke to me so intensely. Like how so many people feel that, you know what I mean? Daddy issues, like so many, or mommy issues.
Both.
Like it is. It's like it's like this like little girl or little boy just like screaming for this love and just like wanting this love, and it's so not the same thing.
And Greta Gerwig, she crafts such beautiful lines and like conveys so much meaning with just those few lines. That conversation between a mother and daughter, and Joe realized, like, she loves Laurie, but that's not her person that she can be with.
Wow.
And I love how they communicate that. And then she goes into this wonderful monologue, which is pretty famous now after this movie's come out. And it's women, they have minds and they have souls as well as just hearts, and they've got ambition and they've got talent as well as just beauty. And I'm so sick of people saying love is all a woman is fit for. I'm so sick of it, but I'm so lonely. And I just love how that communicates how women are so multifaceted, and but especially in that point of society, they're seen as in a very simple role. They grow up, they get married, they have children, they raise a family. And she's just sick. And Joe has fought against this her entire life in this movie so far. I don't want to get married. I'm going to do my own thing, right? But then she finds herself as an adult, like, but I'm so lonely. Yeah, someone to share it with. So I love that monologue. She does that so well.
And I see the intensity in Joe in that it's very hot and cold. Yeah. It's very black and white. Yeah. And that's how I like live my life. And I've been trying to like really find that happy medium, like as I've gotten older, because it's so exhausting. Yeah. Like not everything is black and white. And she has this like young impulsivity that like a lot of us have, and it's not even young, like sometimes people are just like wired that way.
Yes, they are.
She kind of is, and that's why her and Laurie are not really right for each other, because they are kind of this like chaotic like firebomb. And then she even, and you can see the impulsivity because she's like, I'm gonna write the note, or she says
the way she writes so fast,
and she's like, no, she says no to Laurie in the beginning, and she turns him down, and then a few years and then like later she's like, but I like what, that was a mistake, and then she writes it, and then she puts it in the mailbox, and then she goes and like grabs it again, like when she sees,
she's like making these like strong impulsive decisions.
And
that's how she is.
When she said that speech, I totally like resonated with her because it's like,
So good.
she's like, you're pulled in your mind, like you're pulled in yourself. You're like, I've been fighting for this, individuality and womanhood, and that like women are not should not just be subjected to this one
this
one
one-dimensional role.
But then she's like, but if I want a man, if I want comfort and a companion, then I have to subject myself to this one thought that society has for me. And it's like, it's so not that. It's not all black and white. Yeah. And then you see it in the end that she kind of like realizes that like she gets a great guy
turmoil,
and she's able to live the successful life where she's not just like
and that doesn't mean she's compromising her values. It's just maybe her life's changed a little bit. It's not how she thought it was. And going back to like how strong Jo is, there's another one of my favorite moments in the film where Jo is talking with her mom about how she like can't control her anger and it scares her.
I love that part. I got that in my notes too.
Yes, I wrote it down. She says, I could hurt anyone and I'd enjoy it, after she gets in like a really horrible fight with one of her sisters, and there's like terrible repercussions to that. And then
I
her
get
mom,
so angry.
Yes.
I get so angry I could hurt somebody and I could enjoy it.
Yes.
That's such a good line.
And it like that sounds awful, but I think all of us could get there. All of us have felt anger. And then her mom, who she looks up to her, sees as this perfect idol, she says, I'm angry nearly every day of my life. And she turns to her and she's like, what? Like, you're never angry. Like, you're always so kind. And she's like, no, I'm angry every day of my life. She's like, I've just learned to control it, like learned to kind of not let it out in ways that could hurt people. But it doesn't mean she's not angry. She's only human. And I relate to, because I feel like I'm angry a lot. People are angry about their situations, about stuff they cannot control. How can you not be? And it's okay to be angry. But her mom, she gives her a good lesson, and she says, don't let the sun go down on your anger, which I think that's just a really good, well, Louisa May Alcott wrote this. It's just those are really good words to live by. If you're ever angry at someone, you say something you don't mean. Don't let the sun, don't let the night go by without apologizing. I think that's something good to remember. So it's an important lesson from the story. Yeah. That's another way, like learning how to communicate. You're always going to be angry, but that doesn't mean you take it out on people.
Talk about getting older, right?
Yeah.
Like talk about the lessons that you learn when you're getting older. That is the main one.
Yeah.
Pick your battles. Like not everything is worth the fight, and not everything is worth this anger.
No.
And you can feel it, but it's so natural to feel it, right? This anger, the sadness, the anxiety.
Like I'm so angry I could ... right?
Right.
Like,
getting pissed off in traffic.
Yeah.
I mean, hello, it's everything, but it's how you react.
Yeah.
And I've said words that like I can't take back,
right,
because of my anger.
Me too.
And then you realize like the next day, like, holy crap, I cannot believe I said that.
Yeah. But then I want to talk about Amy, who is
we could talk about more for sure.
Yeah. But Amy is Jo's sister and her parallel in many ways.
Wait, which one?
Amy is the blonde youngest sister.
Yes. It's Florence Pugh.
Yeah, it's Florence Pugh, who we love.
Thank you. Yes.
She does a great job.
Yes.
And she's so
good at acting young. Like,
yeah,
so
she's the typical youngest sister, kind of bratty, a little spoiled.
I love it. She does it so good.
And her and Jo are at odds the whole movie. Jo's her older sister, and she's like, Amy is so annoying.
And like, Amy's also the one that marries the
yes, Laurie.
Timothy Chalamet,
which shook everyone,
right? Yes,
me
included.
Yes, for years and years. Yes, Amy, she wants to get married. She wants to grow up and get married to a handsome husband. And she's had a crush on Laurie since she's like a little girl. And she's just like, oh, I can't wait to be a lady of the house, an ornament to society, she says at some point in the movie. And, you know,
an ornament to society.
She's
crazy.
Amy is very self-aware of her role in this world. Whereas Jo, you know, she almost like, Jo wants to be a man in some ways. Like she comments her dad's fighting in the war and she's like, I would have gone with him if I could, but he said I couldn't because I'm a girl.
She literally says, oh, how I wish I wasn't a woman.
Yeah. She hates
when she says that.
Yeah. And Amy is more accepting of her role. And you see as Amy gets older, she matures. She's not as like annoying, bratty, spoiled. She's like a little selfish in the beginning, but in like a a cute, endearing way.
She wants to be this like debutante.
She loves it.
She loves it.
Loves it, and she wants wealth. Like that's what Amy wants. Pretty things, which who can blame Amy? It's kind of looked down a lot in the story. Joe's like, oh, I don't care about pretty dresses or pretty parties. Amy does. Amy wants all of that.
Yeah,
and so does the other sister Meg. But we'll talk about Amy for now. And Amy, when she's older, she gets to go on this trip to Europe by their rich aunt who's very mean, but it's taken a liking to Amy because Amy presents everything that the aunt values, which is someone who is willing to marry rich to get that generational wealth to lift up her family. She plays the game, and she does it so well. Amy, as an adult woman, she's perfect. She's prim and proper. Her dresses are amazing in this film.
I love,
and you can tell
costumes.
She perfectly understands she's courting this very wealthy man. The whole goal of this trip is that he proposes to her at the end. But she meets up with their friend Laurie, their childhood friend Laurie, who comes to Europe, who's so sad that Joe has rejected his proposal. He's a mess.
Right.
He's drinking too much. It's not good. Like she's judging him. She's like, get it together. Because Laurie he's very privileged. He lived next door to them, and he grew up in this like wealthy house. Yep. There may not have been as much warmth in that house as the Marches, but he has all this money. He has all this potential, right? And all he wants to do is run around Europe saying, oh, I'm going to write a play. I'm going to be a writer, but do nothing but go home to his grandfather, who I think just wants him to help him run his company, the family company. Is the situation.
Right.
And Amy is in Europe. She paints while she's there because that is what she's really good at. Amy is an artist, but Amy slowly becomes aware that she's never going to make a living as an artist. She's very good, but she's not good enough to fame and fortune. Who is?
Yeah, exactly.
Fame and fortune.
Exactly.
Artists, most of them don't get their flowers until after they die, right? So, and she says, and then she's talking to Laurie, like, I'm going to give up painting. And Laurie is like, you can't give up painting. You're so good. You're so talented. And she says, talent isn't genius, and no amount of it will make it so. And then she says later, I want to be great or nothing. And then he's like, and Laurie's like, okay, what are you going to do now? And she says, polish up all my other talents and become an ornament to society. And then Laurie's like, please. And he's teasing her, but she calls him out, and he doesn't realize that that's what she has to do to get ahead in life. She has to be an ornament to society. Yes. She has to marry rich. That's her role. That's the only way she can get her family out of their, like, not poverty, but they're struggling, their situation. And he's making fun of that. And then Florence Pugh enters into this great monologue.
That's what I wanted to touch on.
Yeah, I don't have all the monologue written down, but a great line is, she says, she tells her, she's like, well, I think you can choose who you love, because he's asking her if she loves this man who's courting her. And
the rich one.
Yeah, the rich one, obviously. The very rich one. Richer than Laurie, I think is what she said.
Right.
In the film. And she's like, well, I think we can choose who we love. And then Laurie says, well, I think the poets would disagree. And she goes, well, I'm not a poet. I'm just a woman. And then she goes on to elaborate on how, since she's a woman, she'll never have her own money. And she won't ever have money unless she marries someone. And when she has kids, those kids won't be hers. They'll be her husband's kids. She won't own anything, any property. She's a woman. This is her place in society. So she has as much fun as Laurie wants to poke at her for going to these silly parties and like flirting and dancing. But that's what Amy has to do. And that's the big stark difference between her and Joe. Joe's not willing to do that. Joe doesn't care. She'll fight as long as she has to. She'll skate by. And Amy kind of resigns herself to the fact that the only way to get by is to play the game, like you said.
And Florence Pugh, Amy was pointing out that she's not dumb. She knows that.
She's very smart. And in the beginning, they kind of paint Amy as a kid as like a very ditzy kid. Amy's not stupid.
She's like, I know exactly what I have to do. Yeah. It sucks, but this is life.
This is life. I'm not going to be a famous, I can't paint all day. I can't afford to do this. Yeah. Like, I have to go back home and support my family. Which is what she ultimately ends up doing, but then there's the nice little twist of she ends up with Laurie, who proposes to her.
Yes, he has money though too. So
he is money. She's fine.
Yeah, I know. Amy,
they're
either way,
both fine. And Laurie kind of realizes that Amy's like cool, even tempered. Like that's the girl for him. That's his partner. Like, so I get what Louisa May Alcott was trying to show us, but that's still crazy.
I know. Oh yeah, no, it
Marry
still got
someone's
me.
sister.
I know. Yeah, that got me for sure. Even
Uh,
especially because Joe put the letter in the box, you know.
Yeah, and Joe's to go back and get the letter. It's heartbreaking. Everyone should watch this film.
Yes.
Yes, or at least all the other ones if you've seen them. I want to go back and watch.
I know.
At
I
least
was
the one with Winona Ryder.
with
that's
Winona
supposed to be really
Ryder.
good in the 90s. Yeah.
Oh my God, we have to watch it, and I want to
Yeah.
read the book too. You said.
Oh, the book is so good.
Ava said it's giant, but it's an
Yes.
easy read because it's like it's like child.
It's for children, and it was written. Little Woman, I think it started out as like little stories in like a weekly magazine for kids.
Interesting.
So
they
that's
would be
why
published
this was
every
like
week.
years. People were hanging on to this story,
Wow.
and then Louisa May Alcott was like, "Joe and Mari don't end up together." I
Oh.
think people were outraged.
Oh, that's not
Oh.
what's supposed to happen.
Not supposed to happen, but she had her fun, and
I love it.
yeah, probably because the editors probably wanted that to happen. I can imagine. I don't know. I'm just. This isn't history. I'm just. This is what I'm picturing in my head. And she's like,
Yeah.
"Well, I'm not going to give them exactly what I want. I'm going to add in my little twist at the end."
I
So,
know. And again,
yeah.
it's real life. And
Yeah.
each of the characters are so different,
Yes.
but not one of them is like hateable. Like
No.
even Aunt Marge, we literally made that joke.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, she said something so rude, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, and I was like, honestly, my dad would say something.
Yeah,
like that.
she's like that
And then
typical
you're
older
like,
relative.
Yes, and you're like, oh my God, everybody has a relative like that in their
Yes.
family. And it's so true. And honestly, Aunt Marge isn't hateable because it's like she may be like annoying and rude, but like it's like one of those cases where something bad happened to her, or like, you know, she didn't have the life that maybe she wanted. And so she desperately wants it for those
yeah.
in her family. And it's like when they make the wrong choice in her mind, that like really offends her, you know? 'cause
Yeah, and she makes these on the surface mean comments, but I think she truly does care about
Yeah.
her nieces. And Meryl Streep plays her, so she's amazing, and she has such
Yeah.
great comedic timing. So it's done in a very funny way. But
Oh, that's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say really quick before we go. That was like an overall theme that I saw.
Yeah.
And Aunt Marge, it made me realize it
Mhm.
because like nobody really says I love you, you know, in the
Yes.
themes. And that's what I've been learning about
Well,
dialogue.
Maury did.
Yeah, Lori
Got
certainly
turned down.
did. Yeah. But like the sisters, like the relationship with the sisters, I've never seen a bond like it, like that
Yeah.
family.
It's palpable.
And it's like you never hear "I love you" straight up once, because that's not how they say it.
no.
That's not how everybody says "I love you," you know?
Yeah.
And "I love you" doesn't always sound like "I love you." It means like, "Did you eat today?" Or like everybody talking over each other because they're so excited. Like
Yes,
there are
yeah.
so many different ways to say it. And again, like with the Aunt Marge character, it made me think. It made me think about it and reminded me,
Yeah.
because it was like she does have this crazy way of like telling them that she loves them, and then in the end she passes away and she gives this giant mansion. Joe
her niece, yeah.
inherited it.
Yeah, after giving Joe so much trouble.
After
Yeah.
giving Joe so much trouble, it's like, dang, I know. I wish you gave me the house that, a few
Yeah.
years ago.
But
But that's what I thought was so sweet. And that's
Yeah.
like what I think a special overarching theme of dialogue is that everybody says things in different ways.
yeah.
And it's not always going to be like outright. And that doesn't always mean you're a great dialoguer where you can say and articulate exactly what you're feeling.
Yes.
That's not always what it is, you know? So there you have it. At the heart of Little Women, at the heart of dialogue itself, it's truth. It's authenticity. Real communication is messy and it's passionate and it changes as we grow and we mature. Joe, the protagonist, clearly shows us that being authentic doesn't mean staying the same. It means learning to express who we are in ways that still protect your voice. So, whether you're a kid and you're shouting across the room to a family member, or you're an adult trying to find your way in the professional world, or you're simply just a human being who wants to feel understood, just know that the way that we speak is always evolving, and the baseline is that good dialogue is about authenticity. It's about realness, and that's not losing ourselves. That's just simply growing. Thanks for watching, and be sure to join me next time on The Dialogue Effect. Bye!